Good morning, you're watching Addis News Hour. I'm Zoltan Desani with the news. Thank you for joining us and do stay tuned. Somalia expressed appreciation to Ethiopia for the sacrifices made to enable a better Somalia and highlighted the importance of collaboration to address common challenges faced the two countries. This came here the previous day when President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud and Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed met and conferred on a host of bilateral and regional issues. Kasaun Jani has more on this.
Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed held discussions with the Somalia delegation led by the President of Somalia, Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, in Addis Ababa today. Attending the high-level discussion, State Minister for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia, Tesfaye Yilmaz, said Ethiopia is ready to work with Somalia in various fields.
አገሮች ግንኙነት እንዴት ያለ የተሳሰረ ነገር እንደሆነ የሚታወቅ ነው። ስለዚህ በመሪ ደረጃ የሚካሄድ ጉብኝት ደግሞ ግንኙነቱን
The bilateral ties of the two nations are already known. Thus, a visit at the level of leaders is critical to further strengthen bilateral ties. It was noticed that the Premier has attended the inaugural ceremony of Somalia's president so far, and the president has now arrived with his delegation in Addis Ababa. The two countries have various ways of consolidating ties. Some believe that the relationship with Somalia is only peace and security. But the truth is that the two nations are cementing their relations in various aspects.
ለሁለቱ መሪዎች ግንኙነቱ ከሴኩሪቲ በተጨማሪ በተቻለ መጠን በኢኮኖሚ ዘርፎች በንግድ በመሳሰሉ አቅጣጫ
PM Office Press Secretary Lene Sion, for her part, also said Ethiopia desires a stronger and more stable Somalia to achieve common goals in the own region.
በባይላተራል ውይይት በነበረው ቆይታ ላይ እንግዲህ ክቡር ጠቅላይ ሚኒስትር አብይ አህመድ
At a time when the two leaders had a bilateral discussion, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has raised issues of Ethiopia and Somalia. The two nations have had very close relations that
ደግሞ በፖለቲካውም ሆነ በኢኮኖሚውም የበለጠ ትስስር መፈጠር እንዳለበት
According to the press secretary, President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud has appreciated Ethiopia for the sacrifice made to enable a better Somalia. The president highlighted the importance of collaboration to address common challenges faced by the two countries in the turbulent oil region. Lene expressed the president of Somalia and his delegation will be in Ethiopia for a two-day official walking visit.
The Ministry of Finance and the Japanese government have signed an agreement to provide support for 10 mobile clinics in Ethiopia. State Minister for Finance Samarita Sawaso and Japanese Ambassador to Ethiopia Ito Takako inked the agreement at a ceremony here in Addis Ababa. According to the agreement, the Japanese government will provide 10 mobile clinics with a relay of 185 million birr. The mobile clinics have full of medical equipment. The mobile clinics will provide health service for pastoral communities as well as displaced individuals in Gambela, Afar, Somali, southwestern Ethiopia and Benshangul Gumuz states. An international law expert says there are invisible hands behind the absurd report by the UN human rights experts on Ethiopia. Talking to ETV English, the expert Daraji Demse criticized the chairperson of the commission, Kari Betty Murungi, for being partisan and nostalgic of the TPLF-dominated Ethiopia. Goshmeliso brings us up to speed.
The government of Ethiopia declared its commitment to investigate crimes committed in the context of the conflict in the northern parts of the country and prosecuting perpetrators without any prejudice to their positions and entitlement. However, the UN Human Rights Commission experts released an accusatory and unsubstantiated report against the hard factors on the ground. Talking to ATV, an international jurist, Daraja Demse, said there is an invisible hand behind the absurd report of UN human rights experts on Ethiopia, and the report has fermented in favor of the PLF.
There are many in the European Union and other places who do not want the Ethiopian government to succeed. There is a fledgling democracy in Ethiopia. There is obviously an ongoing conflict in the north.
Right.
The Ethiopian people see some hope and some light at the end of the tunnel, where they went through 28 years of oppression under TPLF leadership. The forces that pushed for the creation of this human rights experts did so after receiving the Human Rights Commission, the UN Human Rights Commission and the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission report. They didn't like it. They didn't like its finding that it did not find evidence of genocide.
Dereje reproached that the chairperson of the UN Human Rights Commission, Murunji, has partisan and having TPLF nostalgic tendency.
My problem starts from the people who constituted this human rights experts. The chairperson, Ms. Murungi from Kenya, has consistently written against the Ethiopian government. She has tweeted several times very accusatory tweets against the government based on some reports that she's read on news accounts. You want a person to lead this kind of inquiry. You want someone who is impartial, who's maintained a level of impartiality, who has not made up his or her mind. But the chairperson, to begin with, was someone who is almost partisan in terms of her alliance with the TPLF, never criticized TPLF for any of the acts that they've committed.
Dereje underscored that the allegation of human rights group that the government intentionally delayed aid is far from the fact, adding that the Ethiopian government declared unfettered humanitarian access into Tigray region.
One of the allegations they make is the Ethiopian government was delaying aid intentionally. That's the kind of accusation that you make after a thorough investigation. You can't make that kind of serious accusation sitting in Addis. So their investigation started after the joint human rights and the Ethiopian UN Human Rights and Ethiopian Human Rights Commission said there was no evidence of deliberate delay of humanitarian aid by the Ethiopian government. So what more additional evidence did they collect? I don't know, and they never said. And so it sounded to me like a political document as opposed to a serious human rights report.
It is to be recalled that the government of Ethiopia will not compromise in its sovereignty to be trampled upon by an entity whose main purpose is to humiliate and destabilize Ethiopia.
The Irrecha Festival is an annual Thanksgiving ceremony celebrated among the Oromo, Ethiopia's largest ethnic group. A festival of reconciliation and peace, Irrecha symbolizes the end of the rainy season and a transition to a season of brighter future and hope. There are two occasions dedicated to marking the event, one being Hora Finfinne, the event in Addis Ababa around the UNESCO Square, and the other Hora Arsedi, the event to be marked in Bishoftu town, both this weekend. Johannes Fontan has more on this.
Ethiopia is well known for being the cradle of human beings and African civilization. Naturally, this makes it a top destination for travelers eager to explore unique local celebrations. One of the most interesting of those celebrated in the country is the Irrecha Festival. Irrecha is chiefly a Thanksgiving festival celebrated at the end of the main rainy season and monsoon months in Oromia region, Ethiopia.
ሰዎች ለረጅም ሰዓት ሳይገናኙ ከወንዝ ማዶ የሚቆዩበት ነው። እንደዚሁም ጎርፍ አለ።
The 3 months before the festival are the rainy months when people stay separated due to the fill of the rivers. Although the rain has many benefits, there is also the problem of waterlogging caused by rain. Rainy season is dark and full of problems. Therefore, Irecha is celebrated to thank God who overcame this period of difficulty, enable people to see the light, and also to offer thanks to the Creator that the seed sown will be fruit.
Once the period of difficulty comes to an end and the harvest begins, it's marked by this festival. Celebration itself commemorates the arrival of spring, locally called Bura, and blessings enjoyed by people over the past year. The Irecha festival, which is eagerly awaited by many, is known as a festival of peace and reconciliation. It's where a person reconciles with himself, the society, and nature.
የተጋጨ በተለያየ አካባቢ የሚኖር ወይንም ደግሞ በቤተሰብም ከቤተሰብ ጀምሮ
Since the Irecha festival is celebrated by the family before it is celebrated in public with a large crowd, it allows for peaceful resolution of conflicts between family members. Before the celebration of the festival, people who have any differences must be reconciled.
እንደዚሁም ደግሞ በጎረቤትና ጎረቤት በባልና ሚስት እንደዚህ ካለ ኢሬቻ ከመደረጉ በፊት እርቅ ይደረጋል።
According to the Oromia Region Culture and Tourism Bureau Chief, the festival is a celebration of unity and is celebrated by everyone without any distinction.
የሃይማኖት የፖለቲካን የዘርን
There is no religious, political, racial or other discrimination when celebrating the festival. Everyone who participates in a festival celebrates the festival together.
አንዱን ለይቶ አንዱን የሚያደርግበት አይደለም።
Irecha is celebrated all over Oromia region. However, the biggest celebration takes place in Bishoftu town, about 44 kilometers outside of Addis Ababa. The capital city itself also recently started playing host to this major celebration.
The annual Thanksgiving Day among the Oromo, Irecha, is fast approaching. This weekend we'll see 2 major celebrations in Addis Ababa and Bishoftu, some 47 kilometers away from the capital. Ethiopia is well known for being the cradle of African civilization. Naturally, this makes it a top destination for travelers eager to explore unique local celebrations. One of the most interesting of those celebrated in the country is the Irecha Festival. And to elaborate more about Irecha, I am joined in the studio by Musa Kadir, the Director of Tourism Destination Development from the Ministry of Tourism. A very warm welcome to Addis News Hour, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Well, as we straight go ahead to the point, with regards to Irecha, what are the events expected for this year's festival here in Addis Ababa and Bishoftu?
As we all know, starting from the past 3 years, the Irecha celebration is becoming very colorful because for a long time Irecha has been considered as a simple where you go for Thanksgiving and coming back. The recent phenomenon shows that Irecha can be a big festival that can represent Ethiopia to the globe. So Irecha this time is one of the most crowd, highly liked festival by the Oromos specifically, and as a whole the Ethiopians are becoming familiar with the event, and Irecha is this time the tour operators themselves, they started including in their tour package to sell to the visitors coming from abroad, and also those who are interested to come to Addis Ababa, Finfinne, and as well as Bishoftu to be part of the event.
And what are the efforts that are being exerted to promote this rich culture to the globe and help Ethiopia reap more benefits from it as a nation, as a country?
Yeah, as I said, Irrecha it's basically a 2-day celebration from the recent times onwards. On October 1, it is in Addis Ababa, and on October 2, it's at Bishoftu. But apart from the 2 days major festivities, the Oromia Tourism Commission and the Oromia Culture and Tourism Bureau, they have already started organizing different events related to the Irrecha festival itself. For example, the beauty contest is underway this time at Skylight Hotel, and the best tourism award for those who did a great job in tourism are also it is going to be executed today. And also they have an Irrecha walk and different gatherings between the officials and some experts to discuss about tourism in related to the Irrecha festival. So Irrecha is not only where the Thanksgiving specific event is happened, but it is all about including different components that can attract people to come and to be part of the event in such a way. The way Irrecha is being celebrated is different from the previous times, because it is one of the key festivals that Ethiopia is promoting to the wider world in this September. September is an opening time for Ethiopia as a country, and Irrecha is one of the key celebrations, like similar to Maskal and other Tumkat festivities. So we can conclude by mentioning that all those concerned bodies are working together, hand in hand, especially the Oromia Tourism Commission. They are injecting whatever they have to make Irrecha very colorful, that can bring people to come and part of it, not only for a specific society, the Oromos. Irrecha is an identity for Ethiopia this time. So as a whole, Irrecha can be one of the key tourism products that can Ethiopia sell.
Mm-hmm. Very well then. I'd like you to have probably your final say, and probably of what Irrecha can contribute on the social value and the overall aspects of what it can bring to the country.
Yeah, I think we need to note that Irrecha is not a separate thing from the Gada system. The Gada system has been inscribed by UNESCO 4 or 5 years ago. So whenever we think of Irrecha, it is part and parcel of the Gada system that Ethiopia inscribed at UNESCO. So since the asset we have is for all the Ethiopians, we need to support the event to be in the calendar of all the Ethiopians, and we need to sell to the world by collaborating all stakeholders, especially the tour operators. They need to sell Irrecha and other intangible tourism products other than the tangible ones. We have a usual tendency of promoting only those tangible ones. This time we need to change the scenario. Irrecha and other intangible assets can be a good product for the tourists, and this requires a joint effort between all the stakeholders, and we need to do on that.
Musa Kader, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
ከ170% ሳቫና ግራስላንድ ነው ወይ ሳራማ ለበት ነው። እንግዲህ ለቆርኬ ለዲፋርሳ ለአጋዘን ምቹ ግራውንድ አለ ማለት ነው።
ያው የዱር እንስሳት ሀብት ያለው ከዚህ በፊት ያው ማዘ ብሔራዊ ፓርክ ሲቋቋም ዋናው ዓላማ ብርቅዬ የዱር እንስሳት እንደሚክ ኢሶስ ቆርኬ መገኛ ከመሆኑ አንጻር ነው። ያው ዱር እንስሳት ሀብቱ ያው በጣም አሁን እየጨመረ ነው ያለው።
The Ethiopian Ministry of Trade and Regional Integration has announced a decision to hike gas prices. The new tariff is set to apply for the days between September 27th and November 9th, 2022. Thus, 1 liter of diesel will be sold for 57.05 birr, white kerosene 59.90 birr, and kerosene for 59.90 birr. The funeral ceremony for the late Madingo Afewerki, a renowned Ethiopian vocalist, will take place at the Holy Trinity Cathedral Church in Addis Ababa today on September 29, 2022. Briefing journalists, the Funeral Arrangement Committee disclosed that the ceremony will see a huge gathering of family members, members of the Ethiopian Association of Musicians, distinguished guests and fans, among others. The death of Madingo Afewerki, a young Ethiopian singer, gripped the nation by sorrow. A farewell ceremony for the body of the late Madingo Afewerki has been organized at the Friendship Square beginning 12 p.m., just after an hour, according to the chair of the committee. ETV English expresses its sincere condolence over the death of artist Madingo Afewerki and wishes recovery for his bereaved family, friends, and fans from this terrible loss. Meanwhile, President Sahle-Work Zewde and the Russian ambassador to Ethiopia, Evgeny Terekhin, extended deepest condolence to the death of Madingo Afewerki. According to the president, Madingo was one of the spectacular artists in Ethiopia who loves his country and his people. The Russian ambassador to Ethiopia, Evgeny Terekhin, for his part, said Madingo was not only a talented artist but also a true patriot of his country. His work helped to strengthen the spirit of soldiers who were defending Ethiopia from adversaries. He was an inspiration and pride of the nation, and his decease is a great untimely loss of the people of Ethiopia, as officials said. The Ministry of Water and Irrigation said Ethiopia's huge potential of renewable energy production, agriculture-led economic strategy, its topography and geographic location give the upper hand for the production of green hydrogen. At the Africa Green Hydrogen Forum ahead of COP27 held in Abidjan, Ivory Coast, State Minister for Water and Energy Sultan Wali explained the social economic benefits of green hydrogen and Ethiopia's potential to become its producer and user. According to the state minister, a large amount of renewable energy is needed to produce green hydrogen, and the nation has a capacity to produce 45,000 megawatts from hydro, 10,000 megawatts from geothermal, and 100 gigawatts from wind energy. Ethiopia's agriculture-led economic strategy, landscape geographic location, and alternative ports in neighboring countries create huge advantage to produce and export green hydrogen. Since the TPLF colluded with Ethiopia's foreign adversaries and initiated its treasonous war in November 2020, the European Union, EU, the US, and UN specialized institutions such as the Human Rights Council as well as the UN Security Council have been showing favoritism. These institutions have unrepentantly been dominating the international narrative and by exercising unabashed dominance concerning the causes, pains, and possible outcomes of the war in Ethiopia. The UN Security Council, for example, singles out the victims, namely Eritrea and Ethiopia, as victimizers. It never refers to TPLF atrocities. Amidst this favoritism, the UN Security Council has been urged to establish a platform that helps Africa to have fair representation at the international area. Take a look.
In all these things, as His Excellency Emperor Haile Selassie stood here and said, we need to fight inequality. If not, there shall be war. And if we can ensure fairness by ensuring that we can end conflict and we can end corruption, and we can tell the world that we don't want only to talk about the ending of conflict in the Ukraine. We want conflict ended in Tigray. We want conflict ended in Syria. We want conflict ended wherever it raises its head in the world.
We are gathered here because our forefathers, learning from the tragic episodes of human history, decided to establish the United Nations as the guardian of peace. However, we are yet to achieve true universality in the main organs of the United Nations. Africa has no permanent seats at the UN Security Council.
We also believe that the recognition of the G7 countries and the G20 countries as the informal subcommittee of governance of this world, if it is to be fair, must recognize that no longer can we accept that persons call year after year after year for the inclusion of the people of Africa and African descent to be included in the G7 and G20. For how can a world have at its core a subcommittee that excludes more than 1.4, 1.5 billion people of the world and expect it to reflect fairness and transparency in its decision making?
ወዳው ላይ ጣሉ ማለት ቡክ ከፈቱ በቃ ያመቱን ቡክ ከፈቱ የራሱን አካውንት ከፍቷል ማለት ስለዚህ ያ በራሱ የግፋታን ስርዓት ግፋታን እንዲያውቁ በጋራ ሰዎቹ በመተባበር በመደራጀት በተለያዩ ሁኔታዎች አንድ ላይ ለማደግ ያ ውልም የሚገቡበት
ዮዮ ግፋታ
ዮዮ ግፋታ
ዮዮ ግፋታ ዮዮ ግፋታ
ያለከ ላለ ሃያ ያለከ ለከ ሃያ ያለከ ለከ ሃያ ያለከ ሃያ 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 ያለከ ለከ ሃያ ለከ ለከ ኖአባቲ በኒያማል